The email was a gut punch. See me, Leo Mandel, 4 p.m. For Alara Chandler, junior marketing analyst, those 4 words from the CEO could only mean one thing. Her job was in danger. The company had been tightening its belt for months, and she was low on the seniority ladder. Still, as she reread the message, a flicker of disbelief mingled with anxiety. Leo Mandel, 10 years. Had it really been 10 years since that name last echoed through her classroom? Back then, Leo had been a bright-eyed 17-year-old sitting in the 3rd row of her history class, sharp-minded, curious, and endlessly talkative. He'd linger after lessons, sketching business plans on loose-leaf paper while asking questions about leadership, risk, and life itself. He was a boy with a restless spirit and a disarming sincerity. One afternoon, as the sunlight streamed through dusty blinds, he'd said it, casually, but with the piercing honesty only youth can manage. Someone smart, kind, and strong. Someone who really sees me, he'd mused, talking about his ideal partner. Then, with a boyish grin, kind of like you, Miss Chandler. Her cheeks had burned crimson. She'd shushed him gently, laughing it off, and changed the subject to the French Revolution. But the memory had lingered. Even years later, in quiet moments, it would surface like a secret smile she couldn't quite forget. Now, walking into the CEO's corner office, Alara froze. The man behind the mahogany desk was a shadow of that ambitious boy. His tailored suit hung loosely on a frame that seemed too frail for it. His skin was pale, the confident glow replaced by a quiet exhaustion that no amount of wealth could disguise. "Alara," he said softly. His voice was rough, like gravel. "Thanks for coming." The tabloids had already whispered the truth. Leo Mandel, the tech visionary who built an empire from a college dorm, was dying. Kidney failure. 3 months to live. No donor match found. A global search, hundreds of volunteers, and still nothing. For a few minutes, they spoke about business. Quarterly reports, campaign projections, all the mechanical chatter of corporate life. But Alara could barely hear the words. The man before her wasn't the CEO everyone admired. He was the same earnest teenager who once promised he'd build something great. And now, that fire was fading. A protective ache filled her chest. It wasn't pity, it was something older, deeper. A bond that had never really broken. She swallowed hard. "I'll get tested," she said suddenly, cutting him off mid-sentence. Leo blinked, stunned. "Alara, no. I didn't ask you here for that. That's too much to ask of anyone." Her voice was steady, calm. "You didn't ask," she replied. "I'm offering." The following weeks blurred into sterile hospital corridors, blood draws, and sleepless nights. Between appointments, Alara tried to focus on work, but her mind kept circling back to the same image. Leo, alone in that office, carrying the weight of a billion-dollar empire and a body that was betraying him. She remembered his high school essays about courage. Real courage, he'd written once, isn't loud. It's quiet. It's when you choose someone else's good over your own. The irony wasn't lost on her. When the call came, she was hunched over her desk, half listening to a team meeting. "You're a match," the coordinator said. "A perfect match." The air vanished from her lungs. She sat frozen, phone pressed to her ear. It was one thing to offer. It was another to realize that fate had taken her at her word. That night, she stood by her window, city lights flickering below. Why me? She wondered. Maybe because 10 years ago, she'd told a boy to chase his dreams. Maybe destiny had simply found its way back. The surgery came fast. She remembered bright lights, a nurse's calm voice, the beeping of monitors. Then darkness. When she woke, pain throbbed in her side, but a quiet peace settled over her. Somewhere nearby, Leo was alive, and that was enough. His recovery was slow but steady. Within days, color returned to his cheeks. Within weeks, his smile came easier. He visited her daily, sometimes with flowers, sometimes with nothing but that old mischievous grin. The walls between CEO and employee, teacher and student, began to dissolve. They watched movies together in her recovery room, laughed about old times, and talked deep into the night about everything and nothing. He told her how, after high school, he built his company to fill a void. Success came, but it never felt complete. "I think," he said once, "I was chasing something I already found years ago. I just didn't know it." As her strength returned, so did his. By the time they both returned to work, their connection was undeniable. But it wasn't a whirlwind romance. It was something quieter, built on gratitude, trust, and shared history. One evening, as the California sun bled orange through her apartment window, Leo arrived unannounced. He looked healthier than she'd ever seen him, alive in every sense of the word. "They say you can't buy a second chance," he said softly, sitting beside her. "But you gave me one. You gave me back my life." Alara smiled, but he wasn't finished. "That dream I told you about in high school, it was always missing something. It was missing you. The woman of my dreams has a part of herself keeping me alive. So, I have to ask, will you spend that second chance with me?" Her laugh came through tears. "Well," she said, eyes shimmering, "it'd be a shame to waste a perfectly good kidney, wouldn't it?" They married in a small backyard ceremony surrounded by friends, laughter, and the hum of possibility. No press, no grand gestures, just two people bound by something far greater than coincidence. Leo's speech was short, but no one forgot it. 10 years ago, I told my teacher she was my dream woman," he said, voice breaking slightly. "Back then, it was just a teenager's crush. But sometimes, destiny listens. Sometimes, it waits for us to grow into the love we were meant to find." Alara squeezed his hand. She had once taught him about history, about how moments, tiny choices, shape the future. Now she lived that truth. Their story became company legend, whispered with awe in hallways and boardrooms, the CEO and the teacher who saved him. But for Leo and Alara, it wasn't about headlines or miracles. It was about something simpler, the courage to care when it would have been easier to walk away. And so, the boy who once dreamed of building an empire found his greatest creation not in business, but in love. A love that defied rules, time, and reason. Because sometimes, the greatest love stories aren't written in one moment. They're written twice. Once in innocence, and again, when destiny gives us a second chance to recognize them. Thank you for listening. For more strange love stories in unconventional places, do subscribe to the channel.